Hello friends, welcome back to Mindset Hub Tube, the place where we explore the powerful ideas that shape our thinking, our habits, and the way we live. Today, we're diving into one of the most eye-opening and life-changing books written by the best-selling author of The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel. His new book, The Art of Spending Money, Simple Choices for a Richer Life, doesn't teach you how to earn more money. It teaches you something far more important, how to use the money you already have to build a happier, calmer, and more meaningful life. Most people spend their whole lives trying to figure out how to make money, but very few ever learn how to spend it wisely. And that's where the real problem begins. We chase comfort, luxury, and approval, believing that the more we buy, the happier we'll become. But deep down, we all know that happiness from material things fades quickly. What really lasts are the moments of peace, purpose, and connection that money can create if we know how to use it right. Morgan Housel reminds us that money is not just a financial tool, it's an emotional one. Every rupee we spend is a reflection of what we value, what we fear, and what we truly believe will bring us happiness. Let me give you a real-life example. Imagine two people, both earning well, both living in the same city. One spends money on expensive clothes, flashy cars, and constant upgrades to stay ahead of others. The other uses the same amount to travel with family, help his parents live comfortably, and invest in learning new skills. After a year, both have spent almost the same, but one feels stressed and the other feels satisfied. The difference isn't in the amount of money spent, it's in how it was spent. That's exactly what the art of spending money is all about. It's about making choices that turn your spending into joy, not regret. It's about understanding that money, when used with intention, can buy peace of mind, freedom, and fulfillment, things far more valuable than luxury alone. So in this video, we'll explore the deep insights from Morgan Housel's book, learn how our mindset shapes our spending habits, and uncover the simple yet powerful choices that can transform not just our finances, but our lives. Let's begin this journey together to understand not just how to make money, but how to spend it wisely.
Before we explore the lessons of this book, let's take a moment to understand the man behind it, Morgan Housel. Morgan is not a typical financial advisor. He does not believe money is only about numbers, charts, or complex strategies. He believes money is about behavior, about emotion, about how we think, feel, and react to it. In his earlier bestseller, The Psychology of Money, he showed how our decisions about saving, investing, and risk are shaped by our personal experiences, not just logic. That book taught millions how to think about money. But as he watched how people lived, Housel noticed something interesting. Even the smartest investors, people who knew how to make and manage wealth, often struggled with one thing: spending. People earned more than ever before, yet they were more anxious, more distracted, and less satisfied. That's what inspired his next step, the art of spending money. This book isn't about financial success. It's about emotional success. It's about turning money from a source of stress into a source of peace. Morgan believes there are two sides to money. One is how to make it. The other, and often ignored, is how to use it well. He writes that the way we spend reveals our deepest values. It shows whether we are chasing approval, competing with others, or truly living by our own standards. Let's think about that for a second. When you buy something, anything, are you doing it because you want it or because others will notice it? Most of us don't realize how much our spending is influenced by comparison, by wanting to look successful rather than feel successful. Take the example of a young professional named Mira. She works hard, earns a good salary, and rewards herself by buying a luxury phone, designer clothes, and fine dining weekends. Each purchase feels exciting for a while. But soon that excitement fades, replaced by the pressure to buy more. Every time someone else upgrades, Mira feels she must too. On the other hand, her colleague Arvind spends on things that align with his values: books, music, and outdoor trips with friends. He too spends money, but each expense adds meaning to his life. At the end of the month, both have the same bank balance, but Arvind feels richer, not because of what he owns, but because of what he experiences. This is exactly what Morgan Housel calls the psychology of spending. He says, "The richest person is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least." That line captures the heart of the book. It's not about luxury, it's about clarity. Not about having more, it's about wanting less and enjoying what you already have. When you understand this, you stop spending to impress and start spending to express who you truly are. And this is the turning point of the art of spending money. It's not a rule book, it's a mirror, helping you see your own financial habits and how they connect to your happiness. In the next part, we'll explore the core principles Morgan Housel shares, lessons that challenge everything we've been taught about money and success. We'll see why happiness doesn't come from what we buy, but from why we buy it, and how aligning our spending with our values can completely transform the way we live.
When we think about happiness, we often imagine the moment we buy something new, a car, a house, a new phone. That feeling of excitement when we finally get what we've been dreaming of. But Morgan Housel reminds us, happiness doesn't come from the object itself. It comes from the meaning we attach to it. The truth is, money is emotional. Every time we spend, we're trying to buy a feeling, security, love, status, or belonging. The challenge is that we rarely question what feeling we're actually chasing. Think about this. Have you ever bought something because you felt left out, or because others had it first? We tell ourselves we're buying for comfort or reward, but deep down, we're buying for validation. Housel explains that when spending becomes a way to prove ourselves, it loses its power to make us happy, because no matter how much we buy, there's always someone with more. And when happiness depends on comparison, it never lasts. Let me share a powerful real-life story. A few years ago, a man named Rohit started his first job in a big city. He promised himself that the moment he earned enough, he would buy a luxury car, a symbol of his success. After 3 years of hard work, he finally did it. The day he drove the car home, he felt unstoppable. People admired him, congratulated him, and he felt like he had made it. But 2 months later, the same car felt ordinary. The excitement was gone. He noticed newer models on the road, bigger cars, more expensive brands. And once again, he felt behind. That's the trap, when money becomes a way to chase happiness instead of create it. Now, let's contrast that with another person, Sneha, a school teacher. She doesn't earn a huge salary, but she spends her money intentionally. Every month, she sets aside a small amount for experiences, picnics with her children, short trips, books, and family dinners. Her happiness doesn't come from how much she spends, but what she spends on. Each expense adds value to her memories. Each rupee spent brings her closer to people she loves. Morgan Housel calls this spending alignment. When your spending aligns with your values, you don't just use money, you enjoy it. He writes, "The biggest luxury is not owning expensive things, but having peace of mind about how you use what you already have." That's the essence of real wealth. Not the price tag, but the purpose. Because every time you spend with intention, you turn money into meaning. Now, let's be honest, this isn't always easy. We live in a world built to make us feel like we're never enough. Ads tell us we're missing something. Social media shows us highlight reels of other people's lives. The result? We start spending to fill emotional gaps instead of real needs. Housel says that one of the most powerful financial decisions you can make is to stop comparing. The day you stop measuring your happiness by what others have, you start living richer, even if your income stays the same. Because happiness doesn't grow from spending more, it grows from spending right. So the next time you buy something, ask yourself, am I buying this because I truly want it, or because I want to be seen a certain way? That single moment of reflection can completely change your relationship with money.
Have you ever noticed how two people with the same income can feel completely different about their lives? One feels wealthy, content, and peaceful. The other feels stressed, anxious, and constantly chasing the next big thing. Why does this happen? According to Morgan Housel, it's all about expectations. Money isn't just about what you earn or spend, it's about what you expect to earn, spend, and experience. Expectations shape every financial decision we make, often in ways we don't even realize. Let's imagine two friends, Arav and Kabir. Both earn 80,000 rupees per month. Arav grew up in a household where his parents lived modestly, saved diligently, and emphasized simplicity. His expectations for life are moderate. Kabir grew up seeing luxury, overseas vacations, and high-end lifestyles. His expectations for comfort and status are much higher. Even though their incomes are the same, Arav feels satisfied, while Kabir constantly feels behind. The difference? Perception, not reality. Housel explains that this is why some people always feel rich even on a modest income, and some people never feel rich even when they earn millions. It's never just about the numbers, it's about your mind. Now, let's look at a real-world example. Meet Reena, a software engineer in Bangalore. She earns a decent salary and loves her work. Her expectations are realistic. She wants a comfortable home, some travel, and occasional indulgences. She spends thoughtfully, saves consistently, and lives happily. Contrast this with her colleague Samir, who earns the exact same salary. Samir grew up exposed to luxury and social media lifestyles. He expects to own expensive cars, designer clothes, and have a glamorous lifestyle. No matter how much he earns, he always feels it's not enough. He spends impulsively, borrows occasionally, and ends the month stressed. The lesson is clear. Happiness comes not from how much you earn, but from managing expectations. Morgan Housel argues that when our expectations are too high, spending becomes a cycle of dissatisfaction. We chase experiences, possessions, and lifestyles that aren't aligned with what we truly need. And the more we chase, the fleetinger our happiness becomes. But there's hope. Housel teaches that by consciously adjusting our expectations, we can reclaim our financial peace. Here's a practical example. Imagine you earn 100,000 rupees a month. You don't need a luxury car to feel successful. You just need a car that safely gets you to work, allows occasional trips, and doesn't stress your finances. If you understand this, every rupee you spend beyond your values is intentional, not compulsive. You're no longer competing with someone else's lifestyle, you're living on your own terms. This principle applies to experiences too. Instead of chasing the most extravagant holiday, consider a smaller trip that creates meaningful memories with family and friends. The emotional return on that spending is far higher than the status-driven alternatives. Housel also emphasizes patience and perspective. Expectations aren't just about income, they're about time, opportunity, and life's unpredictability. By keeping expectations realistic, we not only enjoy money more, but also reduce regret and stress. A key takeaway from the book: the richest person is not the one with the most money, but the one whose expectations are aligned with reality. When you accept this truth, spending transforms from a source of anxiety into a tool for creating joy. You start asking yourself, am I spending this to chase someone else's standard of success, or to create happiness for myself and my loved ones? This shift in perspective is what separates financial stress from financial freedom. So, the next time you feel pressure to spend, pause and reflect on your expectations. Ask yourself, are these expectations truly mine? Or am I following someone else's idea of success? Does this purchase or lifestyle choice align with my values, or am I chasing comparison? Mastering your expectations is the first step towards intentional spending, which we'll explore more deeply in the next section. The role of values in spending decisions. Here, Morgan Housel reveals how your core values act like a compass, guiding your financial choices and ensuring that every rupee spent contributes to a life that feels truly rich.
We've talked about happiness and expectations, and how they shape the way we feel about money. Now it's time to take the next big step, aligning your spending with your values. Morgan Housel emphasizes that money is most powerful when it reflects who you truly are. Every rupee you spend tells a story about your priorities, your beliefs, and your purpose. But most people spend without thinking, buying what's trendy, convenient, or impressive to others, and wonder why they still feel empty. Here's the key. Intentional spending is spending that mirrors your values. Let's break it down with a real-life example. Priya is a marketing executive who loves her family and personal growth.
She has the choice to spend her bonus on a luxury handbag, a weekend getaway, or enrolling in a professional development course. The handbag might give temporary excitement, the weekend getaway could create short-lived memories, but the course aligns with her values: growth, knowledge, and long-term fulfillment. By spending in line with her priorities, every rupee becomes an investment in happiness, not just a fleeting pleasure. Housel argues that the first step is clarity about what truly matters to you. Ask yourself, do I value experiences more than possessions? Do I care about personal growth, relationships, or health? What purchases will bring me lasting joy rather than temporary excitement? Once you answer these questions, your spending becomes a reflection of your authentic self. Let's look at another example, this one from the corporate world. Rahul, a senior manager, earns a six-figure salary. He could spend on flashy cars, expensive dinners, or high-end gadgets. But his core value is time with family. So he chooses a modest car, spends less on status symbols, and invests in family vacations and activities that strengthen relationships. His friends may think he's simple, but Rahul is financially and emotionally richer because every rupee aligns with what matters most to him. Housel also introduces a simple yet powerful idea: buying meaning over stuff. Money alone can't buy happiness, but spending on things that reinforce your values does. It could be a cooking class to deepen a love for food and creativity, a small business you support that reflects your ethics, traveling with loved ones to build memories, not just check destinations off the list. The common thread is intention. When you spend with awareness, you start creating what Housel calls emotional wealth. It's the feeling of satisfaction, peace, and pride that comes from living in line with your values. Here's a practical exercise from the book you can start today. List your top 5 values, what truly matters to you in life. Audit your last 3 months of spending. Categorize each expense. Aligns with values, doesn't align with values. Adjust future spending. Redirect funds towards what reinforces your values and cut back on what doesn't. You'll be surprised how empowering this is. Housel says, money spent without reflection often creates stress. Money spent with reflection creates freedom. In other words, values act as your financial compass. They guide your spending, reduce regret, and transform money into a tool for a richer life, not just more things.
Have you ever bought something and months later thought, why did I even spend money on that? Or worse, avoided spending on something meaningful and later regretted it? Morgan Housel calls this the silent cost of regret, the emotional pain we feel when our spending decisions don't align with what truly matters. According to him, some of the most powerful financial choices are not the ones that earn the most profit or status, but the ones that prevent future regret. Think about it. Life is unpredictable. We cannot always control outcomes, but we can control how we spend in ways that reduce regret. Here's a real-life example. Mina is a middle manager who always delayed spending money on her family vacations because she thought she needed to save every penny for the future. She worked hard, lived frugally, and told herself she would reward herself later. Years passed. Suddenly, her parents grew older, her children grew up, and those trips she postponed became impossible. The regret she felt wasn't about money, it was about lost time and memories. Contrast this with Saurabh, who earned a similar salary. He prioritized experiences with his family and close friends, even if it meant spending less on gadgets or clothes. By consciously deciding where to spend and where not to, he minimized regret and created memories that last a lifetime. Housel teaches that every spending decision carries a future emotional cost. Some choices may seem small now, but their regret compounds over time. Conversely, intentional spending aligned with your values generates lasting satisfaction. Let's look at another example from a corporate perspective. Anil, a CEO, faced a decision: invest heavily in a luxury office renovation to impress clients, or spend on employee well-being and professional development programs. The office looked impressive for a few months, but employees felt undervalued, leading to higher turnover and long-term stress. Had he prioritized his team's growth and comfort, he would have minimized regret and created a stronger, happier work environment. Housel explains that the fear of regret can guide smarter spending. Regret is not a result of how much money you have, but how thoughtfully you spend it. Buy what matters most, and you reduce the silent cost of future disappointment. So how can we apply this principle in daily life? Think long-term. Before making a purchase, ask, will I feel proud of this choice next year or next decade? Prioritize experiences over status. Regret often comes from missed experiences, not the things we own. Focus on relationships. Spend on time with loved ones, supporting their growth, or creating shared memories. Align with your values. When spending reflects your priorities, regret becomes minimal. Here's a simple reflection exercise inspired by the book. Take a recent purchase and write down why you made it. Ask yourself, was it for status, comparison, or true value? Could this money have been spent in a way that creates lasting happiness or prevents future regret? Even small shifts in spending mindset can have huge emotional returns. Morgan Housel emphasizes that money spent with intention protects your peace of mind, and that's far more valuable than any luxury item.
Imagine this. You have all the money in the world, but your life feels like a cage. You're tied to endless obligations, a demanding job, or social pressures that leave you stressed. Morgan Housel calls this the silent cost of spending without freedom, because the ultimate value of money is the control it gives you over your own life. And no luxury car, gadget, or designer item can replace the feeling of independence and flexibility. Housel argues that the smartest spending isn't about buying more things, it's about buying freedom. Freedom to choose your time, your work, your relationships, and your priorities. Let's take a real-world example. Ravi, a software developer, earns a high salary but constantly feels overwhelmed by work. He spends most of his money on luxury items, a big house, an expensive car, fine dining. Everything looks perfect on social media, but Ravi feels trapped. He cannot take a week off without worry, cannot pursue hobbies, and feels pressured to maintain appearances. Contrast this with Neha, who earns a similar income. She chooses a smaller apartment, drives a practical car, and spends intentionally on experiences that matter to her. She invests in time, weekend trips, family gatherings, and personal development. By aligning her spending with her need for freedom and control, Neha feels richer than Ravi, even though her net worth may be lower. This is the power of freedom-oriented spending. It reduces stress, increases happiness, and allows you to live on your own terms. Housel emphasizes that freedom comes from flexible money, not rigid displays of wealth. Money becomes a tool to escape the constraints of modern life, not just a way to impress others. Here's another example from the corporate world. A manager named Karan had the choice to accept a high-paying job, but demanding that required constant travel. Instead, he took a slightly lower-paying position that allowed him to work remotely, spend time with family, and pursue personal passions. At first, he worried about missing status or perks, but soon he realized the peace and control he gained was priceless. Morgan Housel writes, "The best return on money is freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to avoid stress, and freedom to create the life you want." So how can we apply this principle in our daily lives? Prioritize purchases that save time or reduce stress, a smaller home closer to work, convenient transportation, or services that free up mental energy. Avoid spending for status. Items bought to impress others rarely add lasting value. Invest in flexibility, savings, flexible work options, or experiences that increase life choices are the smartest expenses.
A practical tip from Housel. Before buying, ask, does this increase my freedom or just my possessions? If it doesn't create more control over your life, it may not be worth it. Freedom is the ultimate luxury, and unlike material items, it grows in value over time. The more intentional you're spending, the more choices you create, and the richer your life becomes in ways money alone can't measure.
Money has two faces. One is for living today, the other is for securing tomorrow. Morgan Housel calls this the delicate dance of saving and spending, and mastering it is at the heart of a richer life. Many people struggle with this balance. Some save every penny, denying themselves experiences and joy today. Others spend freely, chasing pleasure but leaving themselves vulnerable in the future. Housel argues that true financial wisdom is knowing how to enjoy the present without jeopardizing the future. Let's take a real-life example. Rohit, a young professional, decided to save aggressively for the future. He skipped vacations, avoided social outings, and constantly deferred enjoyment in pursuit of financial security. Years later, he had a solid savings account, but he realized he missed out on experiences that could never be bought back: friendships, adventures, and memories. Contrast this with Priya, a colleague who also prioritized saving but allowed herself intentional spending. She took small trips, invested in learning new skills, and occasionally treated herself and loved ones. Her savings grew steadily, but she also created a life full of meaning and joy. The difference? Intentionality. Housel emphasizes that the goal isn't to choose either saving or spending. It's to harmonize both. Money is a tool, not a goal, and when used intentionally, it can provide both security and fulfillment. Here's a practical approach inspired by the book. Define your financial priorities. What matters most in life? Freedom, experiences, learning, family, security? Set boundaries for spending. Allocate funds for things that truly align with your values. Automate savings. Secure your future effortlessly while giving yourself permission to enjoy today. Reflect regularly. Review past spending to see if it brought joy, meaning, and alignment with values. Let's look at another example. An entrepreneurial couple, Sneha and Arav, wanted to start a family and save for their children's education. They decided to live modestly on day-to-day expenses, but invested intentionally in experiences and travel together. Over time, their savings grew steadily, but so did their happiness. They didn't have to choose between living well today or saving for tomorrow. They found the balance. Housel calls this spending with foresight. It's not about deprivation or indulgence. It's about knowing which expenses enrich your life now and which secure your life later. He also stresses the psychological benefit of balance. When you save intelligently while spending intentionally, you gain peace of mind. You're not stressed about the future, and you're not guilty about enjoying the present. This principle transforms money from a source of anxiety into a source of freedom and contentment. Because life is unpredictable, the best financial decisions are those that create optionality, giving you the flexibility to respond to opportunities or challenges without stress.
We often think of money as a tool for independence, freedom, or comfort. But Morgan Housel reminds us that one of the most meaningful uses of money is in nurturing relationships. After all, life isn't measured by what we own, it's measured by who we share it with and the memories we create together. Many people chase wealth to impress others or feel superior, but Housel explains that the happiest people spend money to connect, not to compete. Here's a real-life example. Amit, a high-earning executive, spent most of his income on luxury items and solo vacations. He had a beautiful home, an expensive car, and the latest gadgets. Yet he often felt lonely and disconnected from friends and family. His spending brought status, but not fulfillment. Contrast this with Neha, who earned less but prioritized relationships. She spent on shared experiences, family dinners, weekend trips with friends, and small acts of generosity, like helping loved ones pursue their dreams. The result? She felt richer, happier, and more fulfilled than Amit, despite having less money. Housel emphasizes that intentional spending on relationships amplifies the emotional return on your money. It's not about grand gestures or extravagance. Even small, consistent investments in relationships, helping a friend, spending quality time, supporting a family member, create lasting joy. Let's take another example. Ravi and his wife decided to cut back on unnecessary luxuries and instead saved for a yearly family trip. During these trips, they bonded deeply, created unforgettable memories with their children, and strengthened their marriage. The happiness from these experiences far outweighed any temporary pleasure from material purchases. Housel calls this principle emotional ROI, the idea that some spending generates happiness far beyond its monetary value. Investing in people often bring returns that money alone can't buy. Trust, love, connection, and fulfillment. He also cautions against spending for appearances. Spending to impress others rarely creates real satisfaction. Spending to enrich relationships often creates lasting happiness. The key takeaway is simple but powerful. Spend consciously on experiences and people that matter most. Reduce spending on status-driven purchases that only feed comparison. Evaluate each expense by asking, does this strengthen my connections or just my image? Even small decisions like hosting a family dinner, gifting thoughtfully, or sharing travel experiences with friends can transform your financial life into an emotionally rich life.
Imagine this. You've earned well, you have possessions, experiences, and even freedom, but your mind is never at ease. You worry about bills, debt, investments, or simply keeping up with others. Morgan Housel teaches a profound truth in the art of spending money. The ultimate return on money is peace of mind. We often chase wealth, status, or luxury thinking they will make us happy. But true richness comes from freedom from stress, clarity of purpose, and the calm knowledge that your choices support your life, not control it. Let's look at a real-life example. Rahul, a successful entrepreneur, spent years acquiring a large house, luxury cars, and designer goods. He looked wealthy to the world, but constantly worried about market fluctuations, debt, and social expectations. Despite his material success, he felt trapped, anxious, and unsatisfied. Contrast this with Anjali, a software engineer. She lived modestly, avoided unnecessary debt, and spent money on experiences and relationships that aligned with her values. Her home was smaller, her car practical, and her vacations simple, but she slept well at night, woke up without stress, and felt truly free. Housel explains that peace of mind is the highest and most underrated return on money. It doesn't come from luxury, it comes from intentional decisions, clarity, and self-alignment. Here are a few key principles from the book. Avoid unnecessary debt. Borrowing for status or temporary pleasure often erodes peace of mind. Spend within your means. Knowing you can meet obligations reduces stress exponentially. Prioritize experiences and values over things. Material items can bring temporary joy, but meaningful experiences create lasting calm. Focus on controllable choices.
Spend on things you can control and stop worrying about societal comparisons. Housel reminds us, the ultimate measure of wealth is not how much you have, but how free and secure you feel. This principle ties together all the lessons in the book. When your spending aligns with your values, manages expectations, nurtures relationships, and avoids regret, it creates a life of peace. You stop chasing money as a goal and start using it as a tool to create calm, stability, and fulfillment. Think about it for a moment. The most expensive car, the biggest house, or the trendiest gadget will never replace the peace of mind that comes from financial intentionality. No bank balance can substitute for freedom from anxiety, clarity in decisions, or satisfaction in your choices. Housel's core message is simple yet powerful. Spend intentionally, align with your values, prioritize experiences, relationships, and freedom, avoid unnecessary stress and comparison. Do this, and money transforms from a source of stress into a tool for a richer, more meaningful life.
Morgan Housel emphasizes a timeless lesson. The simpler your financial choices, the richer your life becomes. We live in a world full of complexity. Endless investment options, luxury products, and societal pressures telling us we need more to be happy. But complexity often leads to stress, confusion, and regret. Housel teaches that simplicity in spending is not about depriving yourself, it's about clarity and focus. Consider this example. Rahul and Samir both earn high salaries. Rahul spends his money on complicated schemes, multiple gadgets, subscriptions, luxury items, always trying to optimize for status and convenience. Samir keeps it simple: a practical home, a reliable car, intentional experiences with family, and savings for the future. Who do you think feels richer? It's Samir. Why? Because he knows where his money goes, what it brings, and why it matters. Complexity breeds uncertainty, while simplicity breeds peace and satisfaction. Housel also highlights the concept of enough. Many people chase more possessions, more upgrades, more prestige, without realizing they already have enough to create happiness. Let's look at a real-life example. A family in Pune decided to stop constantly upgrading their gadgets, buying luxury furniture, or comparing themselves with neighbors. Instead, they focused on meaningful expenses, vacations, family dinners, education, and small acts of giving. The results were profound. Less stress, stronger relationships, and a deeper sense of contentment, even though their lifestyle didn't appear flashy from the outside. Simplicity also improves financial decision-making. Fewer purchases means less regret. Fewer obligations mean less stress. Fewer comparisons mean more focus on what truly matters. Housel writes, "Complexity doesn't make you rich. Clarity does." The simplest financial choices often yield the largest returns in happiness and freedom. Practical steps for simplicity in spending. Cut unnecessary subscriptions or memberships that don't align with your values. Focus on meaningful experiences over status symbols. Set clear financial boundaries, know your budget, and stick to it. Prioritize fewer, higher-impact purchases instead of many small, inconsequential ones. By simplifying, your spending becomes intentional, and each rupee reflects purpose and meaning. You reduce decision fatigue, stress, and regret while maximizing emotional return.
Morgan Housel reminds us that one of the most overlooked aspects of financial wisdom is thinking long-term. Money isn't just about immediate gratification. It's about choices today that shape your life for years, even decades to come. Many people live paycheck to paycheck, focused on short-term desires, social comparison, or fleeting pleasures. Housel teaches that true wealth comes from patience, foresight, and delayed gratification. Let's take a real-life example. Ananya, a young professional, wanted the latest smartphone the moment it released. She bought it immediately, even though it strained her budget. 2 months later, a better model came out and she regretted her purchase. The short-term gratification brought temporary happiness, no lasting value. Contrast this with Raj, a software engineer who waited 6 months before buying a phone. He researched, compared prices, and aligned his purchase with his values and budget. By exercising patience, he avoided regret, maximized value, and maintained peace of mind. Housel argues that time amplifies the value of intentional spending. This principle extends beyond gadgets or consumer goods. Investments, saving and investing steadily over time, grows wealth exponentially. Experiences, waiting and planning meaningful experiences ensures deeper, lasting memories. Relationships, building long-term connections creates enduring happiness, far beyond momentary indulgence. Here's another example from everyday life. Rahan wanted to travel extensively and experience the world, but he initially thought he needed to spend lavishly on luxury hotels. Instead, he planned carefully, saved deliberately, and prioritized trips that mattered most. Over the years, he visited more places, created richer memories, and felt financially secure, all because he took a long-term perspective. Housel emphasizes that short-term thinking often leads to impulsive spending, regret, and stress, while long-term thinking creates freedom, stability, and lasting satisfaction. He writes, "The best financial decisions are often the ones you don't make today. Patience compounds both wealth and happiness over time." Practical tips to adopt a long-term perspective. Delay gratification. Before any major purchase, wait, evaluate, and align with your values. Think in decades, not months. Investments, education, and experiences grow in value over time. Plan for contingencies. Avoid impulsive spending that jeopardizes long-term stability. Value compound effects. Small intentional decisions repeated consistently yield extraordinary results. By embracing a long-term perspective, your spending transforms from reactive impulses into strategic choices that build a richer, more meaningful life.
Morgan Housel emphasizes a profound truth. One of the most powerful ways to spend money is to give it away. And not just for appearances or social approval, but for genuine impact, happiness, and meaning. Research shows that spending on others often brings more lasting joy than spending on oneself. Housel calls this the emotional multiplier of giving. The more you share, the richer your life becomes, in ways no material possession can match. Let's consider a real-life example. A businessman named Vikram decided to donate a portion of his annual income to a local charity, supporting education for underprivileged children. The joy he felt wasn't fleeting. It came from seeing the tangible impact of his contribution. Children learning, gaining confidence, and dreaming bigger. His happiness grew not because of recognition, but because his money created meaning. Contrast this with a common scenario. Reena, a high earner, spent lavishly on herself. Luxury vacations, high-end gadgets, and designer clothes. While her purchases brought temporary pleasure, she often felt a subtle emptiness, a longing for purpose beyond material comfort. Housel explains that giving transforms money into a tool for connection, gratitude, and legacy. Even small acts of generosity have a profound effect. Helping a friend in need, supporting a local business, donating to causes aligned with your values, treating loved ones to meaningful experiences. Here's another example from everyday life. Anjali and her husband chose to spend a modest portion of their income on community projects, organizing educational workshops, supporting elderly neighbors, and sponsoring health camps. The sense of fulfillment and joy they experienced exceeded anything they could have bought for themselves. Their spending created emotional wealth that compounded year after year. Housel also reminds us, the happiest people are not the ones who have the most, but the ones who make the most of what they have, often by giving it away. Giving isn't just about charity, it's about intentionally allocating resources to create positive impact.
When spending aligns with generosity and values, your money becomes a tool to enrich lives, yours and others, simultaneously. Practical tips for embracing the joy of giving. Allocate a fixed percentage of your income to giving. Even a small amount makes a difference. Give intentionally. Choose causes or people that resonate with your values. Focus on impact, not recognition. The emotional return comes from meaning, not applause. Combine giving with experiences. Sponsor trips, events, or educational opportunities. This multiplies both joy and memory. Housel shows us that the most satisfying spending is rarely selfish. Money, when used with intention, can foster connection, purpose, and emotional richness far beyond anything material wealth can offer.
One of the biggest traps in modern life is comparison. We see what others have, a bigger house, a luxury car, exotic vacations, and feel compelled to keep up. Morgan Housel emphasizes that spending driven by comparison is almost never fulfilling. It creates a cycle of envy, stress, and regret where no amount of money or possessions ever feels enough. Let's look at a real-life example. A young professional, Kunal, started his first job in Mumbai. He noticed colleagues driving expensive cars, dining at high-end restaurants, and traveling frequently. Even though Kunal earned a comfortable salary, he felt inadequate and spent beyond his means to fit in. The result? Stress, debt, and fleeting happiness. A perfect example of how social pressure distorts spending decisions. Contrast this with his friend, Neha. She earned the same salary but made intentional spending choices based on her values. She drove a practical car, enjoyed meaningful experiences, and focused on relationships rather than status symbols. Neha felt richer and more satisfied, not because she had more, but because she ignored social comparison. Housel calls this principle living by your own financial rules. Here's another example. An elderly couple who lived modestly all their lives never tried to impress neighbors or relatives with material possessions. They focused on family, community, and experiences that mattered to them. Decades later, their satisfaction and peace of mind far exceeded that of wealthier neighbors who spent to impress rather than fulfill their values. Housel explains that social comparison is costly. He says, we spend money trying to look successful, not to feel successful. The cost isn't just financial, it's emotional and psychological. Practical tips to avoid comparison and social pressure. Define your own values and goals. Spend on what aligns with your life, not society's expectations. Limit exposure to triggers. Social media often amplifies comparison. Consume mindfully. Focus on gratitude. Appreciate what you already have instead of chasing what others own. Measure progress internally. Track your growth and happiness against your own benchmarks, not others. By avoiding comparison, you free yourself from the cycle of wanting more just to feel adequate. Money stops controlling your emotions, and you begin to spend intentionally, meaningfully, and joyfully. Housel's lesson is clear. The richest person isn't the one with the flashiest lifestyle, but the one who spends aligned with personal values, free from social pressure and comparison.
Money isn't just for the present. It's also a tool to create impact that lasts beyond your lifetime. Morgan Housel emphasizes that intentional spending allows you to build a legacy, not just wealth. Legacy isn't about leaving an inheritance or material possessions. It's about using your resources today to positively influence people, causes, and communities tomorrow. Let's look at a real-life example. Ramesh, a successful businessman, always prioritized giving back to his community. He funded scholarships for students, supported local schools, and contributed to healthcare initiatives. Decades later, the students he helped became doctors, teachers, and entrepreneurs, positively impacting hundreds of lives.
Ramesh's spending created a legacy far richer than any personal luxury or accumulation of wealth could provide. Contrast this with many who focus only on personal accumulation. They may enjoy comfort and luxury, but their impact is limited, and their financial lessons often fade after their lifetime. Housel emphasizes that intentional, legacy-focused spending combines purpose, values, and foresight. It transforms money into a lasting source of meaning, not just temporary pleasure. Here's another example. Anjali and her family decided to spend on creating a library in their hometown. Instead of expensive vacations or status symbols, they funded books, learning materials, and educational programs. Generations of children benefited, and the family felt profound joy knowing their money created lasting value. Key principles from Housel. Spend to benefit others. Focus on contributions that create long-term impact. Align with your values. A legacy built on what truly matters creates enduring satisfaction. Think generationally. Consider how your spending today can shape future lives. Combine giving with experiences. Involve your family and community to multiply both joy and impact. Housel writes, "The richest form of spending is not what you keep for yourself, but what you pass on in a way that creates meaning beyond your own life." Intentional spending for legacy doesn't require wealth beyond imagination. It requires thoughtfulness, alignment, and consistency. Even small acts of giving and purposeful investment can ripple through time, creating emotional wealth that outlives money itself. By combining all the lessons from this book, happiness, expectations, values, minimizing regret, freedom, relationships, peace of mind, simplicity, long-term perspective, joy of giving, and avoiding comparison, we reach the pinnacle of intentional spending, using money to leave the world better than you found it.
And that's a wrap on the art of spending money. Friends, remember this. Wealth isn't measured by the things you own, the gadgets you buy, or the lifestyle you show off. True wealth comes from intentional choices, freedom, relationships, and peace of mind. So here's your challenge. Take a look at your spending this week. Ask yourself, am I spending to impress, or am I spending to live a richer life, one aligned with my values? Start small. One intentional choice today can create a ripple effect for months, even years. If you've enjoyed this journey into mindful money, check out our other videos on financial wisdom, personal growth, and building a richer life right here on Mindset HubTube. We cover books like The Psychology of Money, Deep Work, and more, all aimed at helping you think smarter, spend wiser, and live better. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a lesson that can transform your mindset and your finances. Remember, friends, it's not about how much you earn. It's about how wisely you spend and the life you create with it. See you in the next video where we continue exploring the secrets to financial freedom and a meaningful life.